doesn't understand love. He thinks love is money. And he's like an alcoholic with gold, I think. You know, he takes huge pleasure, visceral pleasure in giving. And of course the irony, the fable of the story is that once he loses all his money, of course he discovers a huge stash of money in a sort of rather magical fairy tale way. And I think his reaction to finding that is absolute horror. You know, he's been given a bottle of vodka, you know, as an alcoholic. It's just, don't even show me any more gold. The line is a very broken up line. You gods, why this? What this? You gods, why this? You know, and it's a sort of, it's not an easy relationship.
He definitely starts as a Shakespearean tragic protagonist. We see his flaw. He gives unwisely, in the same way that Othello says, "I love too much," so Timon gives too much.
One of his colleagues in the play, the man who probably speaks the most truth to him, Apomantus, says, the middle of humanity thou never knewest. You were always extreme. And my type of extremity is not a party-goer, but an upright, morally correct man who can't believe that he's been let down. So his shock is, I think, more visceral for that.
There's a really interesting thing that Simon Russell Beale has been talking about in rehearsal this week, which is that Timon is the only one of Shakespeare's central characters not to have any family, no romantic relationships, no reference to parents or children or siblings. He has friends, but otherwise he's completely alone. And within the first 2.5 acts of the play, his friends have abandoned him.
I've been finding it a bit distressing to rehearse because even watching the other scenes, because there are a few scenes that Timon isn't in the first half, when the people that he regards as his friends reject him, and they are vile.
What happens to him then is amazing, because the character ruptures. He responds to this, but with a breakdown and a breakout of this misanthropic energy, this rage against not just his friends, not just capitalism, but all humanity.
Well, there's a terrible violence he finds in himself. He wants to cut people's throats. A lot of cutting of throats being talked about, and when he talks about killing everyone in Athens, it includes the babies. You know, he makes sure he lists the babies that he wants killed. You know, and it's a pretty foul analysis of humanity, really.
He has this soliloquy, this sort of aria of rage, finishes with Amen. It's a prayer, or a sort of anti-prayer. It's not to the gods anymore. It's against everything, gods and men.
During that speech, presumably, he's talking to the audience about the audience. I mean, there's no way around it. If you're doing a soliloquy, that's what you're doing.
Some of the image systems and metaphors that have been employed in the first part of the play come back. So animals is a really, recurrent thing, and men reduced to beasts.
From my perspective, perhaps from anybody's perspective, he's not right. I mean, he rejects everything, absolutely everything, and he rejects love when it's proffered.
Timon becomes a man who almost gets lost in language as he chases the attempt to express what he's feeling, and the extremity of his rage and anger and the feeling of betrayal that he has. The arc, I suppose, of him as a protagonist changes then, and instead of, as we might expect, him going through, Lear-like, going through a series of trials or challenges or encounters, and then in the end finding some sort of resolution or catharsis, anything, Timon sort of steps out of the play.
Watching somebody on stage saying, "I've just had enough," is always a horrible moment, And And he sort of, right at the end, he sort of says, please stop making me talk like this. Lips let sour words go by. Language end. You know, that, please stop this bile coming out. And he has an attitude to the sea in which he drowns himself, which is rather beautiful. I want to die where the light foam of the sea may beat my gravestone daily. That's what, you know. You say, oh, that's a different time, and that's the time in the disappointed romantic, I suppose.